I wish I could say the worst moment of my life happened behind closed doors, where only my family could see it. But it didn't. It happened under crystal chandeliers, in front of nearly 200 people dressed in expensive suits and evening gowns. I stood there holding a wrapped engagement gift while my own sister smiled into a microphone and laughed, and this is my sister, the quiet one nobody brags about. The room filled with awkward chuckles. Some people looked away. Some smiled because everyone else was smiling. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. I thought that would be the memory I'd carry forever. I had no idea someone I'd never met was about to change everything. Growing up, I was always compared to my sister. She had the perfect smile, the perfect grades, the perfect social life. She walked into every room like she belonged there. I walked in hoping nobody noticed me. That wasn't because I lacked confidence naturally. It was because every family gathering reminded me where I ranked. Whenever relatives visited, they praised her accomplishments before they even sat down. She'll be running a company someday. She's beautiful. She's so outgoing. Then someone would remember I was sitting there. And you're doing okay too. I learned early that okay was apparently my personality. I wasn't loud. I wasn't competitive. I didn't fight for attention. Instead, I buried myself in books, volunteered at the local animal shelter, and eventually built a quiet career restoring historical photographs. I loved bringing damaged memories back to life. There was something comforting about helping forgotten things become valuable again. Ironically, nobody in my own family seemed interested in restoring their relationship with me. Every holiday, my sister somehow became the center of attention. Every birthday somehow became about her latest promotion, vacation, or relationship. I stopped expecting anything different. When she got engaged, everyone acted like royalty was getting married. My parents rented one of the nicest hotels in the city for the engagement gala. They hired live musicians. There were photographers everywhere. The decorations looked like something from a celebrity wedding. I almost didn't go. But my mother called me 3 times. It would mean so much if the whole family was together. I wanted to believe that maybe things had changed. Maybe adulthood had softened everyone. Maybe tonight could be different. I spent extra time getting ready. I wore a navy blue dress I had saved up to buy months earlier. Nothing flashy. Just elegant. When I arrived, nobody noticed. The valet greeted me more warmly than my relatives did. Inside, people hugged my sister, admired her ring, toasted her future, and took endless pictures. I quietly left my gift on the table. Eventually my mother waved me over. "There you are," she said. Not because she'd been looking for me. Because family photos were starting. The photographer lined everyone up. My sister stood in the center beside her fiancé. My parents moved next to her. Aunts and uncles gathered around. I ended up on the very edge. The photographer smiled. "Can everyone move in a little closer?" Everyone did. Except nobody moved toward me. I was still barely inside the frame. I laughed to myself. It somehow felt symbolic. Later, during dinner, speeches began. Friends shared funny stories. Her fiancé spoke beautifully about love and partnership. Then my sister took the microphone. She thanked everyone. She praised our parents. She complimented friends. Then she glanced toward me. "And of course," she said with a grin, "my sister is here too. She's always been, well, the quiet one nobody brags about." The silence hit before the laughter. It wasn't loud laughter. It was uncomfortable laughter. The kind people use when they aren't sure if something is actually funny. My face burned. I forced a smile because crying would have made me look dramatic. I reached for my purse. I decided I was leaving. As I turned toward the exit, someone gently said, "Please don't go." I looked up. A man I'd never seen before stood there holding 2 untouched glasses of sparkling water. "I figured you might not want champagne right now." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because he was the first person all night who had noticed how I felt. "I'll survive," I whispered. "I'm sure you will," he replied. "But surviving and being treated with respect aren't the same thing." His words caught me off guard. He introduced himself simply. He explained he worked with the family of my sister's fiancé. He wasn't there because he loved fancy parties. He admitted he hated events like this. "So why are you here?" I asked. He smiled. "Professional obligation." We stood quietly for a moment. Then he surprised me again. "I've spent the last hour watching people chase the loudest person in the room." He looked directly at me. "I think they're all facing the wrong direction." Nobody had ever said anything like that to me. Not because I wanted compliments. Because somebody had finally seen me. We talked for almost an hour. About old buildings. Photography. Dogs. Coffee. Books. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. No interruptions. No checking his phone. No searching the room for someone more important. For the first time that evening, I forgot why I'd wanted to leave. Eventually my sister walked over. She looked surprised. "I didn't know you two met." He smiled politely. "We just did." She laughed. "Careful. She doesn't say much." He answered before I could. "Maybe she just hasn't been around enough people worth talking to." The air froze. My sister blinked. She forced another laugh. "Oh, okay." She walked away. I stared at him. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." "Then why did you?" "Because some jokes aren't jokes. They're habits." I thought about those words all night. Some jokes aren't jokes. They're habits. After the gala, I expected never to see him again. Instead, 2 days later he called. Apparently my number had been written inside the engagement guest book beside my gift. He admitted he'd looked it up afterward. I hope that's not too strange. Honestly. It wasn't. We met for coffee. Then lunch. Then weekend walks. Unlike everyone else, he never tried filling silence. Sometimes we'd sit beside the river without speaking for 15 minutes. It never felt awkward. It felt peaceful. Months passed. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely appreciated. Not because I had become someone different. Because someone appreciated who I'd always been. Then everything exploded. My sister somehow learned we were dating. She called me furious. "You seriously went after someone from my engagement party?" "I didn't go after anybody." "You embarrassed me." I laughed in disbelief. "I embarrassed you?" "People are talking." "What exactly are they saying?" "That he likes you more than he likes being around our family." I paused. "Maybe that's because he does." She hung up. After that, my parents started acting strangely. My mother suggested I keep the peace. My father said families shouldn't compete. Compete? I wasn't competing. I had simply found someone kind. Yet somehow I was being treated like I'd stolen something. Weeks later I learned why. One evening, my fiancé looked unusually uncomfortable. "There's something you deserve to know." He explained that during the engagement gala, before he'd spoken to me, my sister had spent nearly half an hour flirting with him. Not harmless conversation. Actual flirting. She'd assumed he owned part of the investment company connected to her fiancé's family. When she'd realized he wasn't wealthy enough to impress her ambitions, she'd quickly lost interest. I stared at him. "I never wanted to tell you." "You should have." "I didn't want to hurt you." "It hurts more knowing everyone else probably knew." Suddenly so many memories made sense. The fake smiles. The jealousy. The insults. She hadn't been bothered because I found happiness. She was bothered because someone had chosen me without caring about status. Months later came the wedding. Not mine. Hers. I debated skipping it. But I went. Not for her. For my parents. The ceremony was beautiful. The reception was elegant. Everything looked perfect. Until the speeches. Near the end of the evening, my father unexpectedly stood. He wasn't scheduled to speak. He cleared his throat. I've made mistakes as a father. The room grew quiet. He looked toward me. For years I praised one daughter loudly while assuming the other knew I loved her. My heart stopped. I confused attention with love. He swallowed hard. I was wrong. Nobody moved. I taught one daughter she deserved applause for everything. He glanced toward my sister. And I accidentally taught my other daughter she should expect almost none. You could hear glasses being set down. My father looked back at me. I've watched how you've handled disappointment with grace for years. His voice cracked. You deserved better from me. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen him cry. I am proud of you. Simple words. Words I'd waited decades to hear. No expensive gift could have matched them. After the reception, my sister cornered me outside. I can't believe Dad did that. I looked at her quietly. She folded her arms. You think you've won? I shook my head. There was never a competition. There always was. No. I smiled sadly. There was only one person keeping score. For once. She had nothing to say. Life changed slowly after that. Healing usually does. My parents began inviting me over without making every conversation about my sister. My mother apologized more than once. Not perfectly. But sincerely. My father started asking about my work. He even framed one of the restored historical photographs I'd completed. The first time I visited and saw it hanging in their living room instead of another oversized portrait of my sister, I almost cried. My relationship grew stronger too. One evening, while walking through the same riverside park where we'd spent countless quiet afternoons, he stopped beside an old oak tree. He reached into his pocket. I'd been thinking about the first night we met. I laughed. I was trying to escape. You were. And you handed me sparkling water. I figured you'd appreciate something real. He held out a ring. I still think you're the most genuine person I've ever met. I couldn't answer immediately. Not because I wasn't sure. Because nobody had ever made me feel so completely seen. I finally whispered yes. When we planned our own wedding months later, we kept everything simple. A small garden. Close friends. Family. No ballroom. No grand entrances. No performances. Just people who genuinely wanted to celebrate love. Before dinner began, I asked for the microphone. Everyone looked at me. For a second I remembered that engagement gala. The embarrassment. The laughter. The feeling of disappearing. Then I smiled. I spent a lot of my life believing quiet people were invisible. I looked around the room. I've learned something different. Silence filled the garden. The right people hear what kindness says, even when it isn't loud. I looked at my parents. Then at my husband. Then, briefly, at my sister. I don't need everyone to brag about me. I smiled. I only needed to stop believing I was someone worth apologizing for. Nobody laughed. Several people cried. Including me. Looking back now, I almost feel grateful for that painful night at the engagement gala. Not because humiliation is a gift. But because it forced me to stop chasing acceptance from people who only valued applause. That stranger with 2 glasses of sparkling water didn't rescue me. He simply reminded me that I had never needed rescuing from myself. I only needed to believe that being quiet didn't mean being unworthy. Sometimes the people who speak the least carry the strongest hearts. Sometimes the family we wish would see us never truly does. And sometimes one unexpected moment, one unexpected person, and one simple act of kindness become the beginning of the life we were always meant to live. If my story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story too.